Also, I did want to note that this is a webinar series hosted by Granite Advance. And while we are hosting a webinar series, we don't recommend any specific educational pathway or institution over another. College Conversations is a webinar series designed to bring information from the institutions that are right here in the Granite State to the people who are looking for school or maybe supporting students or their student in their educational journey. So we hope that we can have these conversations with the people who know best, like Ryan from Colby-Sawyer, about what their institutions offer, what makes them stand out, what kind of students thrive there. And that can be helpful information in your college planning or planning for the students that you support. So as I mentioned, we're here today with Ryan Patten, the Director of Admission from Colby-Sawyer College, which is located in New London. Ryan, thanks so much for being here. We promised to keep these pretty short when we marketed them. So why don't we just jump right in? I'd love for you to give an introduction of who you are, what brought you to this role at Colby-Sawyer. I don't know, anything else fun you want to share about your life?
Sure. So thanks for having me. And hi, everyone. As Matt mentioned, my name is Ryan. I'm the Director of Undergrad Admissions here at Colby-Sawyer. I've been here at Colby-Sawyer for about 5.5 years. Next month, it's wild to think about. That'll mark my 12th year in college admissions in general. Prior to being here, I worked at Plymouth State University for 6.5 years in their admissions office. So I've been able to kind of see things both on the public side, the private college side. Um, and it's something where it's a field that I've always loved. I get to meet with so many people from across New Hampshire, across New England, the country, the world, and really talk about what are the ways that we can help them achieve their long-term goals for what they want to study and the careers that they want to see.
And we'll get this out of the way from the start. Ryan and I did work together for a number of years at Plymouth State, so there might be
Yep.
some conversation about that as we go through. But focusing on the topic at hand, Ryan, if this is somebody's first engagement with Colby-Sawyer, right? Maybe they've heard about it. What would you want them to know on a high level? Like, tell us about Colby-Sawyer. What's kind of unique and special about it? What type of students thrive there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, I think the first thing that a lot of families notice when they come to campus for whether it's a tour, if they're just passing through, or when I talk with different families, it's always, I think it starts with the size of our college. It's something where we are a smaller school. We have about 1,000 students that are on campus. And that's really, I think, where our strength lies. Because we're a smaller school, we can really deliver on a lot of the experiences that our students are expecting to have. And so it's a place where I know it sounds cliche, but transparently, it's the truth. Like inevitably, everybody knows everybody within at some point in the first semester. I always loved where after the first couple of weeks of school, I'll be walking across the campus quad. I'll see one of our new first year students and we make eye contact and they realize, oh, I've met that guy and he probably doesn't remember me. So I'm going to look everywhere else but at him. And then I'll go out of my way to be like, hey, Matt, how are you?
Right.
And just kind of check in to see how their first year is. And they always inevitably find a way to bring back in, like, yeah, you were right. Like, everyone knows that I'm the new person here.
Mhm.
And so, like, my faculty members are getting me connected with clubs. I'm already talking about what kind of internships that I might want to do in the next few years. And so it's something where that transition to college and building up your personal network, making new friends, feeling like you belong, it's accelerated
Mhm.
because it starts with our size. It's also something where, in my personal opinion, we have such strong outcomes because of our size. We are able to send classes of students to the New York Stock Exchange, where they can tour different major financial institutions, both for the country and for the world. They can
Mhm.
have direct one-on-one conversations with leaders in that industry and start working on, like, if they want to break into it, how do they do that? We send students down to Florida as part of a field experience with one of our partner organizations called the Center for Wildlife Studies, where they can track, dart, and tag sharks and see where are they migrating to and how can we establish conservation efforts to help protect the wildlife in our oceans.
I'm going
We
to
can,
interrupt. Are you the
yeah,
reason my dad knows there's 14 great whites swimming off the coast of New Hampshire and is nervous to go in the ocean?
not personally, but
All
there's
right.
probably a connection somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I think our size, it allows us to do a lot of really cool stuff that you may not necessarily get to see at a bigger school where you're a face in the crowd.
That's awesome. And I think the one of the nice things too is your location, right? I know whenever I drive up through your neck of the woods, I'm always struck by the beauty. And I think sometimes there might be a misnomer of like the mountainous region you're in because it's not in the White Mountains in New Hampshire.
Right.
Do you see that in your recruitment process with students?
We do. I think there's the like it's almost two camps of people. There are people who know exactly where they are because either they passed through or like their families have vacationed
Mhm.
in the area, or they have no idea. And we have to kind of like paint the picture for them. And so you're right. We're not necessarily in that section of like the White Mountains, which I think of when people think of New Hampshire and mountains, I think of the 48, 4,000 footers.
Mhm.
And so we're on the Western Lakes region side of the state. So like if students enjoy skiing, we have Mount Sunapee that's 15, 20 minutes away from campus. All of our students get a free ski pass for the season. We host a ski day in February, which is a day off from classes. Students can hang out at the mountain. We have
Love that.
Mount Kearsarge, which is great for hiking, and it's
Mhm.
maybe 10 minutes away from campus. That's home to our oldest tradition that we've been doing, I believe, every year the college has existed except for 2020. That's the only year we've had to pause it. But it's a random day in the fall. No one knows when it's going to be except for the president. When the president decides it's Mountain Day, they ring the bell in our main building at 10:10 in the morning, and that's the signal that classes are canceled. And you will see people literally run out of the building that they're in to be the first one on the bus that's on the quad because it's a point of
Mhm.
pride for them. And then our students, our professors, our staff, we all hike Mount Kearsarge together. We take a community photo at the top. When we come back down, our dining services team has put out a really great spread of barbecue for us waiting at the bottom. So we have those that are right next to us. We have 5 different lakes that are within 5 to 15 minutes of campus. It's an area where, again, like so many families come to vacation because it's
Mhm.
such a beautiful and relaxing part of our state. And not for nothing, Interstate 89 comes right through our backyard, basically. And so if students need access to more of the state, more of the region, it's very accessible and easy to get around.
That's awesome. So, can you talk to us a little bit about the admissions process, right? We'll kind of follow like the student's journey, right, from application through enrollment through this conversation. But what type of admissions deadlines does Colby-Sawyer have, right? Are you early decision, early action, rolling?
Yeah.
And what should students expect as they go through that process?
Yeah, so we don't have early decision. We have what's called early action. So I always
Mhm.
describe that as like that's the friendlier like sibling or like cousin to early decision because early decision, for those that don't know, it's something where you want to be selective with where you're choosing to apply early decision because if you're accepted, barring any major financial concerns, like you are essentially bound to go to that college.
Yeah.
Early action just means that you get to apply sooner, you hear back sooner because those applications are prioritized in our reading queues, and you have so much more time to make your decision before the May 1, what's known as the National Common Reply date. So that's kind of like the deadline that most colleges in the country have
Mhm.
set for like, if you plan to come, tell us by that date. So we have early action. For us, that is December 15th. So different schools will have different deadlines for early action, early decision. After that, we become what's called rolling admissions, which is a really friendly process for students. It allows them to kind of go at their pace of when they're ready to get their application in, their transcripts. There's some other supportive material like letters of recommendation. All of those things can be sent in. Once we get all those documents together, that's a completed application. We can start to review that application and send it back for a decision. And ultimately, our process is set up to answer the question of would this student be successful in their first year of college on our campus? And so we're paying close attention to their transcript and looking at what classes have they taken. Are they actually going to prepare them for the rigors of our own classrooms to be successful? The student's essay essentially is I would say if the transcript could be looked at as like the data points. It's that quantitative kind of process in this. The essay is the qualitative. It's something where the student is communicating to us what they want us to know, whether it's almost a little biography or if it's expressing like, here's this challenge I faced. This is how I overcame it. That's how I'm going to persevere in the future. It's a really cool process. And then if students partake in what's called our early acceptance program, which has the same deadline as our early action, December 15th, that includes a visit on campus and then a 10-minute interview with one of our admission staff members. And so that interview allows us to really dive deep with the student and deepen that connection that we get to have with them, but also they now get to see that we're human beings too. And it
Right.
helps to kind of like demystify the process and just make it feel a lot less scary for them.
Yeah. That's awesome. What type of student do you think you would recommend that early acceptance program for it? And what are some of the perks for beyond the 10-minute
Yeah.
interview?
I would say I would recommend to every student. It's something
Mhm.
where it feels like every student every year, like they want to know a little bit earlier. I think because the sooner they know, the less pressure it feels like they have to make a decision with little information. So
Mhm.
if they can apply and get accepted in September or October, they've got the rest of their senior year to figure out do the finances make sense and keep
Mhm.
going. So I'd recommend it to anybody. Essentially for us, the other benefits that come along with it, they get to see campus, they get to meet with our admission staff members, and not only are we interviewing them, but they get to like ask us questions and almost
Mhm.
interview us as well.
Yeah.
So they get a really good chance to kind of like kick the tires metaphorically,
Mhm.
and see if it's a good fit. And then anyone who's accepted as part of the early acceptance program, or if they get their application in by our early action deadline, which again, same deadline for both programs, there's additional scholarships that are involved in both of those deadlines. So it's also a way to make it a more affordable education simply by showing up and participating in the process.
Nice. That's awesome. One thing I don't recall hearing you mention is test scores, SAT, ACT. Does Colby-Sawyer rely on those in any way in the admissions process?
Nope, we're test optional. From what I can see, we've been test optional for close to 20 years.
Mhm.
It's something where, and quite frankly, I'm so glad because the test scores for a student, they're so high stakes that they are often really not reflective of a student's true capability.
Mhm.
We lend so much more credence to their transcript because realistically, if we can see that over their time of 4 years in high school, let's say they started off in a college prep curriculum for their English class. They moved
Yeah.
up because they were doing well, and they're now in an honors or an AP level class for English by the time that they're graduating. And they've been successful all 4 years. They're probably going to continue that trend in their first year of college. So it's something where it's less pressure. Um, there's usually fees that go along with sending your test scores, whether it's the SAT or the ACT. So it saves them some money as well in an already expensive process. Um, and not for nothing, again, like it doesn't really tell us much about how the student's going to be. So I tell the student, like, if you're proud of your test scores, if you think they're a good reflection of you, absolutely send them in. We will certainly
Mhm.
consider them. And we are really good at giving great pats in the back. And so we will absolutely give you one of those if your scores are great.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's really not going to do much for determining if you're going to be successful in your first year of campus.
Awesome. So we talked about how test scores don't factor that much in unless you're looking for a nice pat on the back and you guys are happy to give those accolades.
Yeah.
Talk about how you do put a lot of weight into the academic preparation as demonstrated on the application. At Granite Advance, one of the things we hear from families a lot is like, how do I really stand out though to the school I want to go to?
Mm-hmm.
And we hear a lot from people who believe, whether they believe right or wrong, that they are on the cusp for somebody who's admittable at that school. So beyond grades, obviously showing that academic preparation, what is something that an applicant can do that stands out to you or your team who is doing the reading?
Yeah, I would say before I dive into that answer, the first thing I want to remind families of is oftentimes students are getting information in from other students or total strangers on the internet. Like I usually recommend do not go to things like Reddit as you're going through this process because it's just like doom and gloom all the time.
Mhm.
And it sets unrealistic expectations to where you're right. Most people think they're cuspy, where if you look at their transcript, probably for most of the colleges in the country, they are absolutely going to do wonderful and they're going to have a great
Right.
experience and get admitted. So for us, I'd say beyond the grades and what's on the transcript, what really stands out to me would be curiosity and resiliency. Curiosity, because at the end of the day, we are a school. We are here to educate students and get them ready for their next step after graduation. And resiliency, I would say, because if there's one thing I've noticed that has changed the most significantly, especially since the pandemic, it's that students' perseverance has really been tested because whether they have this mindset of like what they think they need to get for grades, and as a result, anything less than that is a failure.
Mhm.
It's really challenging for so many students, I think, to reframe of instead of saying like I didn't get that A, so I must not be good at this, to I'm brand new to a really difficult situation and I need
Yeah.
time to learn what I need to learn, fix my mistakes, and keep growing. It's something where I think we have this phrase in higher ed called stopping out, which means if a student is leaving the college, they're withdrawing for any given reason, they're stopping out. And so many of them, whether it's at Colby-Sawyer or other colleges, are doing it because of what I just brought up. They hit a roadblock in their first semester
Mhm.
or their first year, and they stumbled and they just couldn't get their footing again. Like
Yeah.
they got into this. It's almost like when you're skiing and you get into these divots and you can't get out. It totally derailed them. And sometimes they just need a little bit of time to reframe, reset, and then come back. So those are the two things I think that stand out to me. It's curiosity and perseverance, resiliency, like whatever label you want to put on it.
Yeah. It feels to me there's a connection between the early acceptance program that you have too for those students who believe, again, whether right or wrong, that they're a cusper, because then they can
Yeah,
talk through maybe if there is a dip in their grades in their transcript, they have the opportunity to have that conversation face to face. Is that a fair assessment?
absolutely. It's an opportunity for them to go forward with what is my favorite word in everything with admissions, which is context. Again, a transcript, like it's a list of the class you've taken, the grades you got, and the credits you earned from that. But there's so much more that goes into how you earn those grades. Like how much did you focus on studying? How much did things just come naturally to you? Like I studied history when I was in college because social sciences came really easy to
Mhm.
me. However, things like math were never my strong suit. I didn't say that I was bad at math. I just knew that that was more challenging for me. And so I think it's something where we can have those conversations, and whether it's reassuring them like, no, you can do this because I can see on your transcript that you can do it, or just getting them early in front of different resources, whether it's academically or
Mhm.
non-academically, to help them be successful on campus.
That's awesome. All right, so they've been admitted, right? They had the early action or the early admitted program or rolling. They've been admitted. Can you talk money, right? Money is like one of the biggest
Yep.
barriers that people come up with. So, can you talk about scholarships, financial aid, affordability, sticker price versus affordability? Love to hear the breakdown for that world for Colby-Sawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're right. I mean, finance at the end of the day, they are the make it or break it decision for almost any college that someone's looking at. And so for
Mhm.
us, I always start off with we are an anomaly in New Hampshire and New England where we already have a very low tuition rate. We reset our tuition rate a few years ago because after doing a self study, we realized that like we were not doing us or anyone else any favors by having that traditional kind of like high sticker price that private colleges typically have. And so if we can reset it to something that's more manageable for families that still allows us to deliver on the experiences we're promising for our students, let's go there. So this past
Mhm.
year, our tuition rate was $19,000. And so one thing I remind families is oftentimes you hear tuition and you assume that's your total cost of attendance, which is that sticker price you were talking about.
Mhm.
And they're two separate things. Your tuition is part of your total cost because you have housing, you have meals, you have student fees. And so, because our tuition rate, which is oftentimes that biggest portion of your total cost, has been reset to a point where it's basically in the same ballpark as the state schools here in New Hampshire, um, we are right off the bat one of the most affordable options here in New Hampshire and New England. We still offer merit scholarships. So, those are scholarships that are rewarding students for doing well in high school based on their grades. This year they ranged from $5,500 to $9,000 a year. They're renewable all 4 years as long as the student maintains the minimum GPA here on campus to keep them. Um, and then we have other scholarships as ways to try to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make it affordable for students. So there are what's called school-specific aid. So like Colby-Sawyer dollars not connected to federal grants or scholarships. This is where the FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, is so critical for families,
Mhm.
regardless of their financial situation. I feel like a almost like I'm like a recorder on loop, which is like it doesn't matter what you think your situation is. You should put the FAFSA in because you just don't know what you might get reviewed for, and then you don't know if you're leaving money on the table from your aid package. So we have that. We're also fortunate where we have really giving alumni and people connected to the college who really believe in Colby-Sawyer and the transformative experience that we provide to our students, where we are able to provide a true full ride scholarship with our NIBLAC scholarship. So John and Heidi Niblack. Heidi is an alum from, I believe, 60 in the early 60s because I'm totally blanking on her exact year. John's her husband, and they were able to endow 16 spots in our nursing program. Where this past year We awarded 8 to incoming nursing students. We'll do it again this year for another 8. And any billed cost from the college for those students is covered by that scholarship.
It's
Um,
amazing.
it really is. So they're able to not have the pressures of a lot of the finances that I think
Mhm.
understandably many students feel, and they're able to really focus on becoming the best nurse they possibly can, and then graduate debt free and have a running start at the life that they want.
Right.
So it's a true gift, and it's something, again, everything we can do to make sure it's as affordable as possible for students, we're doing our best. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the sticker price is different than the net price. Your sticker price is what it is before aid. Your net price is after aid, which is why it's important to get your FAFSA in. Did that
And
cover everything? I
most,
feel like I bounced around a little bit
I
there.
think so.
Okay.
And is it a fair statement to say that Colby-Sawyer most students will receive some sort of aid?
Yes.
So the
So I
sticker
believe it's
price is paid by very few people.
correct. I don't know anyone that does pay the full sticker price. We're either 99% or 100% of our students get aid in some form, whether it's from their merit scholarships, if it's
Mhm.
need-based aid, if it's a school-specific scholarship, like we have one for families, I believe that are from the Adirondack Park in New York. And so there's a
Mhm.
scholarship for students coming in from that area. You just never know, which is why it's important to raise your hand.
That's awesome. And for anybody who's intimidated by the FAFSA, two kind of PSAs here. The FAFSA from 6 years ago, that was 140 something questions, has been drastically simplified down to, for most families, in the low 40s total question. And a lot of families can get through the FAFSA in about 15 minutes now. So it's really beneficial to get that in. And you might have heard over the last couple of years some turmoil with the FAFSA, where the new rollout changes were about as bad as it could have been. That has been 100% rectified, and it's much faster, and they're constantly putting out new pieces to make the FAFSA easier. And if you are a family who that financial step is just like a little bit deer in the headlights, Granite Edvance offers free FAFSA appointments where we'll walk through every step for New Hampshire residents. All right, so somebody gets admitted, money works for them. So tell us a little bit about what it's like when a student is there, right? Specifically, let's think about the pieces of support, right? How if they're
Mhm.
struggling academically or the transition to college is maybe a little bit more of a struggle than they think. And then um, also that launch from college into career, how Colby-Sawyer can support them.
Yeah, I would say life as a student, number one, our students keep very busy. So whether they're connected to like athletics, which I think it's close to 40 or 45% of our student body are
Mhm.
involved in athletics in some way, or other co-curriculars, um, working a part-time job, being involved in the community, our students are they are keeping themselves busy. Support services, there are a lot of different things, which again is a benefit of being a small college, as students can access those services very easily with little wait time. So I'm thinking about, for instance, academic resources. Oftentimes, it's something which is, I think, the most nerve-wracking for a student to acknowledge that maybe they do need some help, and maybe that's in the
Mhm.
form of a tutor, or it's going to the writing center and showcasing one of their drafts for an essay they have to turn into a class and figuring out how can I make this better. So our Student Learning Collaborative is the office that hosts both of those resources. And they also cover things where, like, if you just need to figure out how to navigate college because it is different than high school. So whether it's like, how do you appropriately take notes so you actually retain the information and you can reference it quickly? If it's different types of like study skills, if it is how do you manage your schedule appropriately so you can do all the things and be a good and effective student, they cover all of that. What I would say is a similar office, but has a smaller pool of students that are able to take advantage of the resources would be what's called Access Resources. And that is the office that handles academic or medical accommodation, which is why it's a smaller pool of students that can take advantage because you need specific documentation for those things. So kind of like to make it as easy as possible, like if a student, let's say, has some kind of accommodation that was in place in high school. And if they want to see if we can provide that here at Colby-Sawyer, they can bring that documentation access resources. They'll review it with a student and be very clear about like, these are the things we can put in place, or these are the things that we're not able to do. Um, we have, what else do we have? We have peer mentors, which is run through our student success office. And so essentially any student on campus in their first year, especially that wants a peer mentor, someone who's a sophomore above has been through like that first year, can help them navigate like both the academic but the social side of things here on campus.
Mhm.
Career services, they do everything from helping you find an internship to writing your cover letter, your resume, doing mock interviews so you feel confident going into those interviews. They also offer a really cool service called the Career Closet, where like if you don't own a suit and you want to dress professional for an interview or for an internship, you can go down there, you can borrow some of the clothing that they have. They
Nice.
keep it all clean, it's well maintained, and then you return it when you're done. And so they do a lot of those services too.
Mhm.
Um, what else do we have? We have Baird Health and Counseling, so medical needs on campus as well as mental health counseling. All of that's provided through Baird. There's a lot of different support services that students can take advantage of.
That's awesome. And if anybody has any specific interest, like specific question about support service, they can reach out to you or somebody in your team. We'd be happy to walk them through that deeper
Exactly.
dive.
Exactly. It's all on the website, but oftentimes admissions becomes kind of like that guidepost for students because
Mhm.
we're the ones that they always hear from. And so like you can absolutely reach out to me, anyone on my team, and we'll get you connected to the right person.
All right, as we kind of near the wrap up point, I got three semi-rapid fire, right? It doesn't have to be
Sure.
a two-word answer, but so first question, is there a program or major at Colby-Sawyer that you think deserves way more attention than it gets?
Ooh, oh yeah. I would say so as in like what do I wish people knew us more for, right?
Yeah, or it's like this program's amazing and
Yeah.
people just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, number one, all of our programs are amazing. That's totally cliche, I know, but majors that I wish people were more aware that we had would be things connected to like our like the traditional kind of humanities or social sciences. So like creative and professional writing, history and political studies, sociology and human services. They're all things that have those skill sets that employers need, especially as like AI is becoming more of a reality in a lot of different fields that people are
Mhm.
making people understandably very nervous. And oftentimes, I think we forget that AI is usually it's truncated with slop right after it. And so, if you have people who can effectively write, can effectively communicate, those are the things that employers are looking for still. And so, our majors are preparing students for those fields. So, those would be some things that I wish people knew more about.
What's a misconception about Colby-Sawyer that if you could wave a magic wand, you could set the record straight and have nobody think again?
Yeah, I would say going back to like some of the things we talked about earlier, our size and our location. So often people they see that as a hindrance instead
Mhm.
of realistically the strength that it is. And it's one of those things too where like not every school is for every person. Like if you like for instance, my wife, she went to school in the middle of Philadelphia.
Mhm.
She's someone where she wanted to be in the middle of like thousands of people and she wanted to like be surrounded by lights constantly. And in a rural location, that's just not what we have.
Right.
And so I think being able to be in a place where people come to relax, be able to have their vacation time, that's your normal setting sounds really great to me and to
Mhm.
our students.
Yeah.
And so leaning into the things that our location provide, and again, the strength of our size is something where if I could wave that magic wand, it's those two things.
I will say my sister and her husband are both Colby-Sawyer alums, and they loved all the region had to
Oh,
offer.
get out. I didn't know that.
They met on the track team at Colby-Sawyer. So,
I love that.
yeah. And then, all right, last question here. If there is someone who's on the fence, who's done a little bit of research for Colby-Sawyer, but they're unsure if it's the right school for them, what would you say to them?
Oh, talk to us. Come visit. It's one of those things where, and I make this joke all the time, but it's so true. Like if you go to a college fair, everything looks the same. We're all behind a table. We have the
You're right.
same, like what we call pop-up scrolls, where like one is a list of the majors, one has great images of the campus.
Yeah,
All
they're
of
all
our print
beautiful.
there, and they're all stunning. Wouldn't you know it? It's almost like we changed the pictures.
Right.
Like the printed materials that we are very like happy to put in your hands look suspiciously like they came from the same printer, and so like
Mhm.
everything looks the same until you get onto the campus. And it's one of those things where you may not know that you are going to fall in love with a small school until you're on it. Or you might be able, like, you might come into campus and realize this is not for me. I need something like, let's say, a UNH, which is larger and is closer to different types of, like, let's say it's closer to Boston. And so you never know until you physically get on that campus and get a sense for yourself of like, are these my people? And is this where I can be successful? So talk to us because we can answer a lot of the questions that are on your mind, and we'll be transparent about those answers. And come see for yourself everything we have to offer.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to end on. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know summer's a busy time on a college campus, so really appreciate you taking some time to chat. And for those watching and for who watches recording down the line a little bit, if you have questions, definitely check out the website. When I send the recording out, Ryan, I'll include your contact information in that email. And this episode will be posted on the Granite Edvance website in probably a week or two as we do a little bit of processing and will be shared at that time. So again, Ryan, thank you so much for your time. We will go to Q&A, but I'm going to stop the recording for that. So if anybody has specific questions that they want to ask that are more individualized, they can feel comfortable doing that without it being on recording. So thanks again for attending, and Ryan, thank you.
Thanks for having me.